Hello everybody. In this video we want to talk about how can we draw the graph of inverse of the trigonometry function. Y equals sine inverse x. We start with it. At first we should understand something on unit circle. Let's draw it better. In unit circle, I want to tell you sine inverse is defined in quarter number 1 and quarter number 4. So, the change of domain of sine inverse is between -1 and 1, and cosine inverse and the range of it is between -pi/2 and pi/2. So here is 0, here is pi. Sine inverse and tan inverse are same. Tan inverse is defined between -pi/2 and pi/2. But cosine inverse is a little bit different, and cosine inverse is defined in quarter number 1 and quarter number 3. So this is the trigonometric inverse function and definition of them. If you remember, we had the graph of sine x, and we understand the graph of sine x is this, and from here it continues to infinity. Okay, sine is not a function, because if you draw a line horizontally, it intercepts with the graph with more than one point. To define it and define sine inverse is a function, we should restrict the domain. If you remember, in pi, in sine, it is sine. We had range restricted between -1 and 1, and the maximum is pi/2, and here is -pi/2. We want to draw the graph of sine inverse in this part. In this part, if we draw every horizontal line, it will cut the graph of sine inverse x in one point only. Look at me. When we restricted the graph, now it is the function. So, if I want to write the domain of sine was here. Domain is changed on x-axis. It is -pi/2 and pi/2. And the range is between -1 and 1. To draw the sine inverse, only change the range and domain easily. So, for sine inverse, domain is -1 and 1, and range is -pi/2 and pi/2. Easily we can change this, and every point you can change. Suppose that if I have here -pi/2 and -1, on sine inverse I will have -1 and -pi/2. We can switch them easily. Here is 0 and 0, nothing. And here on sine it was pi/2 and 1. Now in sine inverse it will be 1 and pi over 2. Let's go draw the graph of sine inverse. Let's erase this part. If erase this part, I will easily draw the graph of sine. Let's draw the graph. I told you for sine inverse we should change the x and y of a point. So 0 and 0 y itself, and pi over 2 and 1 change to 1 and pi over 2. Suppose that here is 1, here is pi over 2. Easily I found this point, 1 and pi over 2. Because we told we should change the range. Range is on y-axis from minus pi over 2 for sine inverse x to pi over 2, and the domain is between minus 1 and 1. Now I can draw the graph. Easily I drew the graph of sine inverse x. And if you want to draw the graph easily, you can say we have the line of y equal x. If you draw the graph of y equal x, sine and sine inverse should be this line is not good, or this graph is not good. Sine and sine inverse should be reflect to the line of y equal x. All inverse functions should reflect to the line of y equal x. Now go to the next example. Suppose that I have y equal 2 sine inverse x. What will happen here? Here only need to y times 2. Means y every point should time 2. What does it mean? It means if you had before I had, if you remember on sine, I had pi over 2 and 1. So here was pi over 2 pi over 2 and 1, and here minus 1 and minus pi over 2. It was when I was at the sine inverse sine x. So easily I said this is sine x. Now I have 2 times only y of a point. 2 times only y of a point means if I had before on sine x I had pi over 2 and 1. Now I should time the y coordinate to 2. So we know it is for sine. If I want to inverse it, it is 1 and pi over 2. Now it is sine inverse. If I change it more, means time 2, y time 2, it will be 2 sine inverse. So it means 1 and pi. Okay, so my first point is 1 and pi. And the second point is 1 minus pi over 2 on sine axis, sine graph, and minus 1. Now on sine inverse I have 1 and minus pi over 2. It is on sine inverse. And if I want to change to times 2, the next point will be 1 and minus pi. Now let's find this point. 1 and pi. Easily say, when I have sine inverse, I should change the points. Here is 1. Here is minus 1. And pi. So here is pi. Here is minus pi. Okay, I find this point 1 and pi, and I know 0 and 0 doesn't have change, but here because time 2, it should shift 2. No, sorry, it's wrong. Only remain itself. No need to shift it. So if it is 0 and 0, so 0 times 2 is 0. No need to shift. And minus 1 and minus pi. I saw an example that we have shift on this point. So easily I drew this. If you draw the graph, the line of y equal x, you can see easily is the reflection for this graph. So the red one is sine 2 sine inverse x. And now we want to solve another example. Y equal 2 sine inverse x plus pi over 2. Now I have shift on y-axis. It is the example that I told you, the origin shifted on y-axis. I understand how to draw the graph of y equal to sine inverse x. So it is the graph of 2 sine inverse x. Let's go by the finding the points. After that we can draw it by the shifting. So at first finding the point. So I had in the y equal 2 sine x, I had this point 1 and pi. Now y-axis should on a y coordinate should add it to pi over 2. So I have 1 and pi plus pi over 2 is 3 pi over 2. And I have 0 and 0. It is origin. So it is 0 and 0 plus pi over 2. It is pi over 2. The next point is 1 and minus pi. So I will have 1 and minus pi plus pi over 2 is minus pi over 2. So I find this point on the graph. 1 and 3 pi over 2. This is 1. Suppose that this is 3 pi over 2. Pi over 2 and 0. 0 and pi over 2. And minus 1 and minus pi over 2. So you see it is shifting now. So it is one point, it is another point, it is the first point. Now I can draw it easily. It is the graph of this shape. Now by shifting, if you want to draw it by shifting, I say at first I know what is the graph of sine 2 sine inverse x. So to draw the graph of 2 sine inverse x, I have here pi, I have here minus pi, 1 and pi and 0 and 0 and minus pi and 1. Now only need to shift, because it said plus pi over 2, only need to shift on y-axis every point, y of every point. So on x we don't have any movement, only on this. So if I want to change it, I want to shift it, so this point come here and it shift pi over 2. So pi go to 3 pi over 2 and 0 go to pi over 2 and minus pi go to minus pi over 2. Sorry, it is not good. Now this point is this. It is the graph by shifting. So I think it's better to finish this video because after that I want to solve some example of the an Excel box and solve some problem. Thank you for watching this video, and please push the like and subscribe button, and have a good time.